to see you.
Good to see you, man.
Alrighty, we have 20 minutes, so just if you could get yourself settled in, and you have 3 minutes for opening and 2 minutes for a close whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, members of the JNC. I applaud your speed with this process and want to discuss with you who I am and why I sought this position without sounding boastful, a difficult task. I'm a native Floridian and have had the privilege to practice law for 29 years. During that time, I've represented a variety of people, nonprofits, corporations, citizens in litigation with their city and county, and the counties of St. Johns and Monroe. Plaintiffs and defendants. I've been involved in my community, bar, church, and have not been isolated from the people we serve. Handling appeals in all 5 DCAs, orally arguing before the Supreme Court on a pro se basis when the Uniform Guidelines for Taxation of Costs were brought before the court on a second time. I was in the minority on the Committee of Civil Rules when the first guidelines went up, and the Supreme Court concurred with my position that those guidelines were too generous. Of the 25 plus appellate proceedings, I prevailed in 90%. Why? An adherence and knowledge of the law as applied to the record in the court below, sound judgment, writing honestly and persuasively with record and case support cited throughout, preparation, self-critiquing, and the ability to persuade appellate judges that my client's position was just and legally correct. Justice is important, and listening to ensure everyone receives a fair shake is critical. These traits are well suited for the 5th DCA, and my success rate on appeal is distinguished. I'm patient. Judge Nimitz, reverse magistrate judge, permitting me to depose a Wilmer Cutler partner in D.C. before trying 5.5-week federal jury trial in Tampa. The partner did not want to be there and had an ace litigator representing him and objecting. The witness ripped off his microphone and said, "I'm out of here." I never lost my demeanor. When we concluded the partner's deposition, he came up, shook my hand, and said, "You're the most patient lawyer I have met." Additionally, I have a diverse background with all 3 branches of government. Legislative experience with the House Governmental Operations Committee. Judicial experience as a law clerk intern to Chief Judge William Stafford in Tallahassee. And executive experience serving pro bono as a special assistant state attorney during a year of crisis. Criminal depositions and prosecuting Arthur evidentiary hearings for more than a year in circuit court. I've been a foreman in a criminal DUI jury trial, despite the fact that I'm a trial lawyer. I'm a product of public schools all my life. Pro bono honor roll for St. Johns County Legal Aid for several years, devoting more than 180 hours helping a nonprofit that houses very low-income people. Beyond the legal realm, helping my church as a lawyer, vestry, and teacher of 2nd grade. I also served Rotary Club as director and legal advisor for many years while on the board. I'm the father of 2 young men, and I'm the son with a power of attorney that helps my mom, 91-year-old resident of St. Johns County. At this stage, I have plenty of good years to serve this court with honor and distinction.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Middleton. My name is Michael Marder. I had the pleasure of vetting your application, and I'm pleased to say that how you've described yourself is how others have described you in terms of the way you conduct yourself. So had nothing but high praise, and I think the most telling thing I learned about your character, which is not evident from reading your application, is the divorce that you had. Highly contentious, I understand, with many very serious allegations, every one of which was found to be false. And I was told by more than one person the unimaginable patience and restraint that you exhibited in your case, never, resisting the temptation to apply impulse and passion and irrationality rather than logic, and you behaved in that case as a party the same way you behaved as a lawyer in the cases you handled. So that was the highest form of praise that I could imagine, staying calm in a divorce case when you're being attacked. So
During the most difficult time of my life.
doing apparently a very difficult time, so I laud you for that. But my question for you is the transition from lawyer to appellate judge, and whether you think that there should be, whether, you know, our concern is always, should there be an intermediate step? Why do you think that you're ready for the appellate court now as opposed to maybe some judicial experience first in the trial, at the trial level?
Yes, the only judicial experience was for a time with Judge Stafford as a law clerk intern. However, I've never thought, and I've seen in the past, experienced, seasoned trial lawyers, AV rated, bringing a perspective to a court, whether it's trial, whether it's appeal, or even the Supreme Court. That used to happen more frequently in the past than we see now, but it's certainly not unheard of or unusual. And I believe that where I am in my stage of 3 decades of practice now, and finishing up that 3rd decade, that I have had sufficient experience in the trial level and the appellate level, and that I don't think that that would be a hindrance, other than I need to be learning how to be a judge, regardless of where I would become a judge or appointed one, is one of the deficits that I would study up on, learn quickly, and do the best I could. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I think that you would bring yoga to this court, and they need it, so that would be great.
I do handstands.
Yes, yes. I have to ask you about the, one of the, I believe it was a presentation you did in continuing legal education that was called Seeking Redemption in a Judicial Hellhole.
I did not do the presentation. That was one of the CLEs, but that I attended through my fellowship in the Litigation Council of America. And they had some experienced lawyers, I believe, talking about a state up in the Northeast that I won't mention. And it was entertaining, to say the least. But it's a good group of seasoned trial lawyers and some judges that are part of that organization.
Recently, the courts of our state have taken on the legislature, I think, and used theories such as access to the courts, Fourth Amendment violations, to take where the legislature has limited remedies to plaintiffs, such as workers' compensation, medical malpractice, things like that. What's your position on the courts using access to courts kind of analysis to effectively destroy the work of the legislature?
The first thing I would do is look at Article 1, Section 21, and what Supreme Court decisions have been decided, because that's what we're going to follow. And that's what I look to as a lawyer, to determine the bounds as our Supreme Court has defined it and as the Constitution. And they are the ultimate arbiter of what 21 means. And then I look at the creativity, but it's not for any district court of appeal to create any new cause of actions, as we well know, and I intend to adhere and follow that precept.
You're one of the border people, as I'm starting to call them, where you live in St. Johns County, but you work in Jacksonville and Duval County. So what are your ties to this district as opposed to the first DCA?
Well, I have 2 pending briefs in the 5th District Court of Appeal right now involving some land use issues. And I have tried cases in Flagler with Judge Zambrano, 11-day jury trial. I've been in St. Augustine. I've had plenty of experience in front of Judge Maltz in his 1.5 to 2 years, and with Judge Traynor prior to that time. And love living in St. Johns County for many reasons. But Jacksonville's been principal, but I have had a statewide practice where I have a case now in front of the Chief Judge of Leon County Circuit Court against the Department of Revenue and 21 tax collectors. And I enjoy the different venues. I've been fortunate enough to receive summary judgments in Highlands County that were affirmed on appeal on a negligence causation issue in the second DCA. So I'm not bound by the fact that my physical office is there. I do meet with clients out at the beach as well, where I live.
Just one question, one other question, and, you know, the issue that I have, or the question I have is, you're making a very good living, and you have been making a decent living doing what you're doing for, you know, a number of years. What kind of a sacrifice would you be making to give up that income to now take a lower salary at much more work? You know, basically, we appoint you, and if we send you to the governor and the governor appoints you, this is a position that you should be serving likely till you retire.
Yes.
And I'm just curious to know what the motivation is to take that kind of a cut, and how is that going to affect your obligations with your children or any other financial issues that you might have?
Well, the financial issues with my former wife continue. It would be a substantial impact. I am an equity partner in an AmLaw 200 firm, 250 firm. But life is not about money. Life is about a lot of other things. And as we journey and grow to become a more whole and balanced person, the opportunities here intellectually and growth otherwise in the service of the judiciary is something that I'd always thought about doing during the course of my legal career. And I do look at it as, you know, the final job if nominated and appointed by the governor.
Thank you.
If I could say, in the interest of full disclosure, I was a summer clerk for a firm in Jacksonville, Rogers Towers, and Jim was there. And I could tell you from firsthand experience, he was very kind to the associates, great mentor, took that very seriously, and he was very nice to me, and I want to thank you. I haven't seen you since then.
No,
It's
we
good to
have-
see you. What would you anticipate your judicial philosophy to be? How would you approach cases?
Well, I think I alluded to it, to Mr. Schmidt's question about that. And I think that's helped me in the appellate process of why I've been successful in looking and following what the law is out there, and obviously collaborating and having a collegiality within this building here. And perhaps there are times that I would pick up the phone and talk to others on the DCA that I know around the state of Florida. So to summarize my judicial philosophy, it would be difficult on the criminal side because I know I have a ramp up if I was selected on direct appeals and post-conviction relief. And I have ideas of how I would go about doing that. But I certainly don't have a philosophy other than the fact that I would be fair to both sides. The evidence of me being selected on a criminal DUI jury trial, jury trial, and so forth. Even though I had 4 trial lawyers in my family, and they were laughing at one point, but obviously the prosecution and defense both felt comfortable with me to be fair and even-handed. And that's the best judicial philosophy of being impartial, diligent, and taking each case seriously to listen to why we're here. So I hope that was somewhat responsive to your question, Rick. And yes, I enjoyed. I wish Rogers Howard hired you.
They did, they tried to.
Yes.
Let me ask you if I could. You applied here before, is that correct?
Once before, yes,
Okay,
sir.
2012?
Yes, sir.
You also were a candidate and a finalist according to your application at the U.S. Magistrate Middle District?
Yes, sir.
Is that right? Tell us about why you applied there and what was your thinking there?
At that juncture of my legal career, I had tried and still had the largest federal court trial in my time as first chair before Judge Nimmons in Tampa. And I had a lot of federal court cases in that time frame. And I was encouraged. I was introduced to Judge Nimitz' wife at the investiture of Charles Arnold in Jacksonville as a trial lawyer extraordinaire. I knew he was, I think, encouraging for me to be considering that, and it's something that I started practice my first year when I started out as a lawyer. Was thrown in federal court and had one of the finest oral arguments on the statute of repose before Judge Alcee Hastings in 1986 against the Potters firm. I've been blessed with some wonderful cases, and I feel comfortable in both arenas. The federal court's appealing because you do more writing typically, but I enjoy it. The brief writing, the analysis of the legal arguments, listening to some creativity that some lawyers may come up with, and so forth. But I applied then mainly because at that point in time I was more federal practice. As you can see, my federal practice percentages dropped way down. I did complete a patent trial as local counsel and had a couple of patent cases resolved in the Middle District and the Southern District.
So let me follow up on that. So you were a finalist, you didn't get that,
Yes, sir.
obviously, okay. Has there been other positions similar to that in the federal courts after that time frame that you could have applied for?
Yes, sir. Judge Brian Davis, who I had a very significant case in front of in Nassau County, was an applicant, obviously successful ultimately in becoming the next district judge. I did not apply for that. And there was another judge that's just been pulled up that is soon to be invested in Jacksonville. I didn't apply for that either.
Okay, thank you.
And I was encouraged by Judge Corrigan to put my name in.
Thank you.
We are at your 2-minute mark, so offer your closing.
Thank you for serving and giving of your time to this very important task. I understand giving of time, and during these 3 decades I practiced law, I helped my retired veteran neighbor pro bono change his will to give his own to his son, and the neighbor died days later. Serving as a court-appointed guardian ad litem for a Venezuelan minor who was seriously injured. I respectfully submit that my wide variety of civil trial and appellate experience would be a welcomed asset to the court. I have the intellect, demeanor, record, calmness to serve this court well and the people that come before it. I am an AV-rated lawyer and fellow in LCA and served the Florida Bar for 15 years as an active member on its Appellate Rules Committee, Civil Rules Committee, and chosen as a liaison to the Rules of Judicial Administration. I can commit to you my devotion to the rule of law. I pledge to each of you to follow and apply the law faithfully and to protect and uphold the integrity and independence of the judiciary. I come with no predisposition to favor the government or the accused, plaintiff or defendant. I will respect and honor the judicial office as a public trust. I will bring a sense of collegiality, openness, respectfulness, not only to judges, litigants, and staff, but to those not easily seen. I will apply my work ethic and dispose of judicial matters in a prompt, impartial, efficient, and fair manner. I have, with acts and deeds, walked the walk of giving my skill and time to those in need. Helping others and giving back is what I think makes life worth living. Being attentive and available to our neighbors and those in need of any adversity. I pledge not to become enamored with the road and isolated from the people. If chosen, I come to this court with a grateful heart, a sense of humbleness, and desire to listen, learn, and serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you. You too.